What you just saw is some of the only footage we have of the quote-unquote original Shrek. Don't you think it's fascinating that we could have gotten such a different Shrek compared to the ogre we all know and love today? This footage is merely a remnant of Shrek's extremely long and troubled production history that dates back to 1991, a full decade before the film's theatrical release in 2001. So today, I'll be talking about the search for the lost Chris Farley cut of Shrek. But before I start, I think I should emphasize on that title. So firstly, no, this cut was not finished, and the search for this Chris Farley cut is merely just for all the production material that was created for the cut. So without that being said, let's start this video. Originally, Shrek was a picture book made for children that was released in 1990, with Shrek having abilities not adapted in the film, such as the ability to eat lightning, have laser eyes, breathe fire, and would basically be invincible. The plot of the book follows the titular ogre getting kicked out of his parents' swamp so he can go out into the world and scare others. Shrek then encounters a witch who tells Shrek his fortune, which is to marry a princess who's even uglier than him, but would have to have him fight a knight. Shrek would then be taken to the castle by Donkey, yes, Donkey, that donkey, where Shrek would have an epic battle with the knight, where Shrek blows a fire blast at the knight, which would ultimately win him the battle. Shrek would then marry the ugly princess, where they would then live horribly ever after. The book would mostly get positive reviews, with the Washington Post calling it relatively simple, but such an irrigating, cheery book that no one will be able to resist it. Just 1 year after the release of the book, famous filmmaker Steven Spielberg would acquire the rights to the book in 1991. After acquiring the rights of the Shrek book, Spielberg would plan on making a traditionally animated film with its animation studio, Animation, with Spielberg planning on having Bill Murray play Shrek and Steve Martin going to play the role of Donkey. All that we really know about the plot is that it would have mostly stuck to the source material of the original book's plot, but Animation would shut down due to most of their films being financial failures. Due to this disaster, Shrek would be put on the back burner until DreamWorks would enter the picture. In 1994, Steven Spielberg, David Geffen, and Jeffrey Katzenberg would found DreamWorks Animation Studio. The studio would then buy the rights to the Shrek book for a cheap $500,000 in November of 1999, where the project would then be revived, with Nicolas Cage being offered the role, where he would fortunately decline the offer for the better, with SNL comedian Chris Farley accepting the role of the titular ogre. The film would have been CGI animated using motion capture animation, and would have used sets where the CGI models would have been superimposed over. During this phase of the film's production, a 45-second test animation titled I Feel Good was created, being named after the James Brown song played in the test animation. The short's plot follows Shrek entering a gated city at night, singing I Feel Good. He then comes across a mugger attached to a rope, who's singing along with Shrek. Shrek plays with the mugger before stretching the mugger by his rope and sending him soaring into the night sky. The test was screened in May of 1997, but was torn apart by Katzenberg, leading to the CGI motion capture hybrid animated film being scrapped, instead being replaced by a fully 3D animated film. After this disastrous test animation for the film, production on the film would continue, with Farley going on to nearly finish all his voice lines for the film, recording around 90% of his voice lines. However, unfortunately, disaster would strike, because on December 18, 1997, Chris Farley would die of a drug overdose, halting production again. The crew would consider hiring a voice impersonator to finish the film, but this would not happen, and instead Chris Farley would be replaced by a fellow SNL star, Mike Myers. After Mike Myers would take the role of Shrek, production would largely go smoothly, with the script being rewritten due to the fact that the script of Shrek was designed specifically for Chris Farley, with the animation for the new Shrek being completed by the year of 2000. And a year later, the greatest film in human history would be unveiled to the public. Most of the Farley cut script was rewritten, however we know that at least 2 scenes were used in the final cut, being that of the onion scene and the campfire nighttime scene. Other than these 2 scenes, the 2 cuts are almost unrelated, but after the release of Shrek, the Farley cut and the test animation would largely fall into obscurity. much about the Farley code really be discussed about online until August 8th of 2014, when a discovery would be made. An eBay listing had been made for a clay model of the original Shrek. There on the eBay listing were the first screenshots of the I Feel Good test animation ever seen by the public, with the poster of the listing implying that the full animation but only had the screenshots for the time being. News on the Farley cut would largely go cold for another year until August of 2015, when the aforementioned campfire scene would get leaked, which would include Chris Farley's voice lines. After this, not much about the Farley cut would really be discovered until 2017, when YouTuber Uncle Sporkums uploaded storyboards of the test animation to his YouTube channel, with the man going out of his way to record the script for the scene himself. After this, not much about the test animation would really happen. However, 5 years later, gold would be found, because on July 30th, 2022, Lost Media Wiki user Dingo Manboy would find a sped-up clip of the test in HD in a demo reel of a former DreamWorks animator who worked at DreamWorks at the time of the test animation. A few days later, more footage would be found on a discovered showreel on YouTube that was uploaded in 2010, which means this was under our noses for the whole time. On August 14, 2022, YouTube user The Secret Life of Aliens would find a snippet of Shrek and another with the mugger in demo reels from another DreamWorks animator. Just 3 days later, on August 17, 2022, a video consisting of the early Shrek, mugger, and donkey models would be discovered on the Hester Studios website, but it is currently unknown if the models were used in the test animation. The guy who initially discovered the first footage of the test, Dingo Manboy, would also find unrendered footage of Shrek, which was made in 1998, which, if you remember, is a year after Farley's passed. A similar unrendered test that contains more Chris Farley voice lines would be found by Quandale Dingle Swagmaster 69420. Fun fact, the lines in this test actually did make it into the final 01 cut. The last of this treasure trove of rediscovered Shrek material is a short few-second test where we actually get to hear early donkey voice lines. But unfortunately, the model is not an early donkey model, but a CGI asset for the later 2D animated DreamWorks film Spirit. As of writing this in early September of 2022, that's basically all we have, well, at least to my knowledge. But as of recording this in late September 2022, I can assure you that this is probably outdated, because of the fact that I really didn't revise the script that much, because as of September of 2022, late September 2022, there's too much on my plate, to say the very least. But next video, you should know why there's way too much on my plate. But in my personal opinion, these discoveries are pretty fascinating, as they're basically products of another dimension, where we all grew up to love and worship a different green ogre, played by another SNL comedian. But no matter what green ogre we meme, Shrek is love and Shrek is life.